What's happening? What's happening? What's happening?
And we're back!
Hey, that's right. Back again. JC's Pop Culture Pod, episode 15. CinemaCon happened recently. We got a bunch of movie news to talk about, including a surprise sequel coming to Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, one of my favorite Tarantino movies ever. I'm a big Tarantino guy, as you guys know, and I absolutely love that movie. Crazy to believe we're getting a sequel to it, and with that sequel, we're getting essentially a Tarantino and Fincher team up. Who would have saw that shit coming? Two legends in the industry teaming up. So we got that to talk about. We got plenty of horror movie news to talk about. We got superhero movie news to talk about. And then, of course, at the tail end, I'll talk about some stuff that I've been watching lately, as well as always is the case here on JC's Pop Culture Pod. Before we get into the news stories, just want to say appreciate you guys for tuning in here, whether you're watching the video version on YouTube, which if you are, be sure to hit the like button, help us out with that YouTube algorithm, and subscribe here if you're a fan of superhero movies, comedy movies, or horror movies. Those are right up my alley, so if they're up yours too, be sure to hit that subscribe button. Stay up to date on everything here on the channel, movie news wise, review wise, all of that good stuff on JC's Pop Culture. JC's Movies is the YouTube channel, but JC's Pop Culture Pod episodes will be uploaded there. And of course, you guys on the audio side, we appreciate you as well. A rating helps, and share us around with other movie fans that you know. No further ado, let's talk some movie news. I mean, of course, you guys know I got to start it off with Superman, my most anticipated movie of the year. Huge Superman fan, been covering this since early in the casting process, and we're just a few short months away now. I'm about to start going through and reviewing all the Superman movies, the Superman solo movies, I should say. I'm going to try and get all those done from Christopher Reeve's first Superman all the way through to Man of Steel and get those done before the movie comes out in July. So be sure you're subscribed to JC's Movies on YouTube so you can check out those reviews. And of course, then get James Gunn's Superman review. Once that comes out, we'll be diving into that and doing a ton of Superman content there on the channel as the DCU officially begins on the live action side with James Gunn's Superman. But had some coverage for it at CinemaCon, so let's see what they had to say here. James Gunn, of course, directing the film. Yes, we know this. Shared at CinemaCon on Tuesday what he's been cooking up and the project that he's most personally invested in, which is Superman, which he wrote and he is directing. The idea is to offer audiences a more brighter, optimistic do-over after DC went down a dark, dour path with the Snyderverse. I don't necessarily agree with that shit. I'm a huge fan of what Snyder was doing. I think it's more so WV fucked him and took over the franchise and meddled too much, and that's why we ended up getting bastardized versions of BVS, and then of course the atrocious Justice League. But you saw with Zack Snyder's cut of Justice League what could have been and where we could have went if Warner Brothers wouldn't have meddled. So, Variety, don't really like that too much. But nonetheless, let's see what else they have to say here. James Gunn said this is a movie that celebrates kindness and human love. Gunn promised the theater owners there at CinemaCon, and that was certainly on display in the trailer that DC shared during the Warner Brothers presentation. Lots of red, white, and blue optimism, as well as scenes of Superman getting interviewed by Lois Lane and saving people from collapsing buildings. There was also a shot of Lex Luthor brandishing a very big pistol. We're guessing it was loaded with kryptonite bullets. Probably so, probably a good guess. Gunn said he was first offered Superman in 2018, but instead opted to make Suicide Squad. But the idea of taking the character perceived as old-fashioned and making it resonate with a modern audience appealed to him. Eventually, Gunn had a eureka moment and was able to devise a story that is both utterly human and utterly fantastic at the same time. That sounds great. Of course, Crypto stole the scene yet again. Crypto seems likely to steal the show when Superman flies into theaters on July 11th. As we know, he was in that first trailer that first footage that we got there. David Cornsweet, best known for his work in Ryan Murphy's Hollywood, stars as Clark Kent and Superman. Rachel Brosnahan playing Lois Lane. Nicholas Hoult as Lex Luthor. We know all of this already. I'm trying to get to some quotes here. These stories are at their core about the power of hope and the fight for good to conquer evil. Rachel Brosnahan here saying this, Lois Lane herself. That's always worth fighting for, she added. The actor said it was an honor to play such characters who were so iconic and had become such a part of the culture, but not everyone got the role they initially tried to land. I think that's, of course, in reference for Nicholas Hoult, who auditioned for Superman. He also auditioned for Matt Reeves' Batman, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, auditioned for Batman and Superman. I didn't get either. Then Gunn suggested that rather than portray the hero, he play the villain. of course. And I think that that's more fitting. You guys know I'm not the biggest Nicholas Hoult fan. I don't know how that casting is going to go. We'll see how it plays out, but I definitely don't see him as Batman or Superman. I could see Lex Luthor a little bit more there for sure. But that's pretty much all we got there. Not a ton of nothing new there as far as Superman is concerned, because not unfortunately didn't get to see the new footage that they debuted at Comic-Con, or not Comic-Con, CinemaCon rather. But we do get some good quotes there from the actors and from James Gunn. So we have that from Superman. But let's talk about what I kind of teased there on the opening, and that being David Fincher and Quentin Tarantino teaming up for a sequel to Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Excited about it. The only thing that gives me a little bit of trepidation is, man, this shit deserves to be released on the big screen. The fact that it's going to Netflix, I'm not the biggest fan of. I'm sure they paid a pretty penny to get it, but maybe that's why Tarantino chose not to direct, is because, you know, he was going to go straight to Netflix, and Tarantino's more of a traditional guy. I think he, you know, actually shoots on film, doesn't even use digital a lot. So maybe that's why he said he wasn't going to direct this. And also, he said, you know, the next film that he directs will likely be his last. So maybe he didn't want this to be his last, to be a sequel. So we'll see. But David Fincher to direct Brad Pitt in a Once Upon a Time in Hollywood Netflix follow up from a Tarantino script. Um, of course, the follow up to Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. This is from Variety, which I thought this shit was fake at first because it comes out on April 1st. It's almost like maybe we should have like a moratorium on movie news on April 1st, because you never know what's real and what's fake. I thought for sure that this was fake. Turns out it is indeed real. This shit is coming, and hopefully it turns out well. No official title yet, but being set up at Netflix, where Fincher has a first look deal. Brad Pitt set to reprise his role as stuntman and potential wife killer Cliff Booth. It's an especially unique production, not only because a high-profile director is helming a sequel to another high-profile director's film, but also because the property shift from theatrical studio to a streamer. The shift is especially pertinent as news of the project emerged during the movie theaters industry's annual week-long gathering at CinemaCon in Las Vegas. Of course, Once Upon a Time came out in 2019, released by Sony. Tarantino negotiated a deal that would return him ownership of the film's underlying copyright after a number of years. Since his follow-up is being set up under Fincher's first look deal at Netflix, that likely indicates that sequel rights may have already been privately retained by Tarantino. Project comes together after Tarantino scrapped plans for what would have been his 10th and allegedly final feature. That's what we're talking about there. You know, Tarantino's next movie that he directs is supposed to be his last. It was going to be The Movie Critic, and that was supposed to star Brad Pitt. I think we talked about that actually in the past here on JC's Pop Culture Pod, but a script had been written and Brad Pitt had been cast in the lead role. The story was said to take place in the 70s and follow a film critic who wrote for a porn magazine. It had been rumored that Pitt would be playing some version of his Once Upon a Time in Hollywood character, Cliff Booth, who in Tarantino's novelization of his own feature was revealed to be quite a movie buff. Now Pitt will officially reprise that role, which won him an Oscar for supporting actor. The project reunites Pitt with Fincher, who have made each other some of their most acclaimed films, including Seven, classic, Fight Club, classic, and Oscar darling, The Curious Case of Benjamin Button, another great film. Seems less likely that DiCaprio or Margot Robbie would reprise their roles for the sequel. I actually think that Tarantino said that Leonardo DiCaprio's character died. I think I remember him putting that out on social media or something. He had to add to the lore of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. So maybe they'll touch on that a little bit in the sequel. But while Tarantino's reputation as a writer-director, this filmmaker has written scripts that he did not end up helming, including True Romance, which I just recently watched for the first time. I know. Don't hate me. It took me so long, but damn, what a movie. And Robert Rodriguez is From Dusk Till Dawn, another great one. Meanwhile, Fincher has made 2 features at Netflix, both of which share themes with this one: the Hollywood period piece Mank and the violent working man thriller The Killer, which I haven't watched either, to be honest with you. The playlist was first to report the Once Upon a Time in Hollywood sequel. Netflix has not responded yet for comment, but looks like it's coming on Netflix, a Once Upon a Time in Hollywood sequel. And how about that team up? A script from Tarantino, Fincher directing, Brad Pitt back to star as Cliff Booth. Hell yeah, let's see what it's about. And then you guys know being the huge Kevin Smith fan that I am, this was big news. Knew that Kevin Smith was going to get the rights back to Dogma, which, I'm not ashamed to say, when he didn't have the rights and you couldn't find Dogma on physical media, I paid way too much for an out of print copy of Dogma on DVD. But hopefully, this means it's going to be getting a Blu ray, maybe a 4K release in the near future as well. But it's coming back to theaters. He's kind of doing the tour thing with it, I think, starting in April. I believe all of those are already sold out. I think I saw him post on social media, but it's coming everywhere theatrically on June 5th, I believe is the date for the 25th anniversary of Dogma. So might have to go catch that in theaters. Any chance I get to watch a Kevin Smith classic in theaters, I'm going to try and take that opportunity, as it will return for a re-release in June here from Variety. And yes, June 5th is the date for the 25th anniversary. And of course, Kevin Smith is touring it before then, starting on April 20th, but I believe all of those have already sold out, if I'm not mistaken. Iconic Events is distributing the re-release after acquiring the rights from Miramax. Dogma has never been available on streaming, and the scarcity of physical copies made the film somewhat of a cult classic. Like I said, that's why I had to pay a shit ton for a copy of it on DVD. Fourth film in Smith's View Askewniverse series, and the highest grossing of the bunch, which also includes Clerks and Mallrats. Did not know it made more than any of the others. That's interesting. Dogma also starred Linda Florentino, Chris Rock, Jason Mewes, and Kevin Smith himself. So excited about this one for sure, being the Kevin Smith fan that I am. Can't wait to see that and hopefully get a chance to watch Dogma in theaters. That was from Variety as well. Got several of these stories from Variety, a lot of them coming out of CinemaCon, including the fact that we have the title of Tom Holland's Spider-Man film. Looks like it's going to get made, start filming this summer. If so, the first Spider-Man actor to get 4 films, 4 solo films, I guess I should say. Tom Holland's Spider-Man 4, official title, Spider-Man Brand New Day. That was revealed at CinemaCon. Filming will begin this summer, according to director Destin Daniel Cretton, who announced the project timeline at CinemaCon. Tom Holland wasn't on hand at the annual convention for movie theater owners, taking place in Las Vegas, but he did send a video to tease the upcoming superhero adventure, and this is what he had to say. "I'm so sorry I can't be with you. I'm halfway around the world shooting a movie, The Odyssey," which he's in, Christopher Nolan's next movie. Gag me with a fork. You guys know I can't stand Chris Nolan. I won't be watching that shit. But he said, "I know we left you with a massive cliffhanger at the end of No Way Home. So Spider-Man Brand New Day is a fresh start." It is exactly that, and that's all he can say. We know he's been one to leak some spoilers in the past, so trying not to do that. Impressive restraint for Holland, as Variety states there in the article as well. He says, "That's all I've been allowed to say, and I'm well over the hump of giving away spoilers, so don't be worried. I'm not going to do that today." As Holland alluded, the prior entry ends with, him accidentally broken open the multiverse, making the difficult decision to erase his identity from the world, which I think is going to set up an interesting aspect to this film, and we'll see how they play with that. But the theater release date for now is July 31st, 2026. So we'll see what happens here with this one, but we know Spider-Man Brand New Day is the title, and they're aiming for a July 2026 release for Tom Holland's Spider-Man movie. How about some I Know What You Did Last Summer news? We're coming up close to the release of the remake, reboot, requel. I don't know what you call these anymore half the time. They're calling it a sequel here, I guess. In this article from Variety, they debuted bloody footage and teased the return of Jennifer Love Hewitt and Freddie Prinze Jr. At CinemaCon, which I think the release date for this one is in July, if I'm not mistaken. We also got a synopsis in it. I think that this might be here. The sequel follows 5 friends who inadvertently cause a deadly car accident and cover up their involvement, making a pact to keep it a secret rather than face the consequences. A year later, their past comes back to haunt them, and they're forced to confront the reality that someone indeed knows what they did last summer, and that person is hell-bent on revenge. So pretty much the exact same plot as the original. Literally. I mean, that's word for word as you read it. That's the exact same plot as the damn original film. But I think that I also saw, here it is. This seaside town is no stranger to such slaughterings and bloodshed. As they're one by one stalked by the slasher, the friends discover that this happened before. Oh no. And they turn to 2 survivors of the legendary Southport massacre of 1997 for help. Those 2 probably being Jennifer Love Hewitt and Freddie Prinze Jr., of course. Honestly, does that synopsis really excite you? No, but Was the first one really that good of a movie? No, but we're nostalgic for it, and I love a good slasher. Any type of slasher you throw at me, I'll check out. So I'll watch it, and at least you'll get some nostalgia factor with them returning, and kind of maybe redoing the essential same movie for modern day audiences, I guess. So we'll see how it plays out. But there is the synopsis, and I know what you did last summer coming at us this summer. Funny enough, then we have a couple. Few or at least a couple, I think I got two or three TV series news here. One of which is, of course, a series that I talked about in the past few episodes here, Paradise, which if you guys haven't watched Paradise Season 1, you've got to get on that shit, man. Paradise Season 2, casting Shailene Woodley for a prominent role. At Hulu, of course, Variety confirms this. She'll appear in the new season as a recurring guest star, though exact character details are being kept under wraps. We'll see what she plays. I'm guessing, with how the first season ended, spoiler alert, she's going to be someone maybe that was left above ground on Earth. So we'll see how that plays out. But Shailene Woodley joins Paradise Season 2. And then some news on another Season 2, a good ass comedy, which, are rare these days, but this one was on Netflix, and that is the Shane Gillis series Tires has set their Season 2 premiere date. This also is from Variety, and it will be releasing June 5th on Netflix. So, man, it's going to be a hell of a summer. No pun intended for the movie that just released there, which I do have to check out as well. But, we got a ton of good movies coming out, both in the horror genre, the superhero genre, and some good comedies as well coming to Netflix with Tires Season 2 coming July 5th there, courtesy of Variety. And then how about some more DCU news, this time on the TV side of things? As we know, the HBO series Lanterns ramping up, production ongoing right now. We knew for sure, of course, it's Jon Stewart and Hal Jordan involved there, but also Guy Gardner, who we're going to get to see in Superman here in just a couple short months, will reprise his role in the Lantern series as well. So not one, not two, but at least three Lanterns will have showing up in the Lantern series, which is pretty sweet, as this is also from Variety. So super excited about this. Of course, many voice acting roles for Nathan Fillion in the DC universe there for some of the animated movies, making his live action debut coming up in James Gunn's Superman, which he was recently cast in. He'll join Kyle Chandler's Hal Jordan and Aaron Pierre's Jon Stewart in the series there. Which super excited there that we're getting multiple Lanterns. We were already getting two. I thought that was going to be good enough, but hey, Guy Gardner showing up is going to make it even more fun. So good news there for Lanterns. And then how about some news for another comedy, this time on the movie side? Then we will talk some horror news to wrap up the news cycle here that we want to talk about. But the long-awaited, long-rumored, I swear it seems like, I guess for the better part of a decade now, they've been saying that they're going to make a Last Friday movie. It seems like it's finally going to happen. And I don't know about you guys, but I got my fingers crossed that we're finally going to get Chris Tucker to return to the franchise as well. We'll see if it happens, but Ice Cube is signed on, sets a Friday sequel at Warner Brothers and New Line. This is from Deadline here. Ice Cube is getting audiences ready for the weekend as he returns to the role that started it all. The Grammy winner has inked a deal with Warner Brothers and New Line Cinema to reprise his role as Craig Jones in Last Friday, the fourth entry in his comedy Friday, which then you had Next Friday, Friday After Next. Last one released in 2002. So, 20 some years later, finally going to get that other Friday movie. Who knows if we'll get Chris Tucker back. It's been 30 years since he's been in a Friday movie, but hey, maybe we'll at least get Mike Epps. My thing that I think the best thing they could do is how about get them both? Have Mike Epps, get Day Day in there, get Smokey in there, bring Chris Tucker back, and have all of them together in a film. Craig, Day Day, and Smokey. That shit would be hilarious. New Line CCO Richard Brenner revealed the news in an interview with The Hollywood Reporter after he closed a deal with a star who previously teased that the sequel had finally got some traction back in June of 2024. So they have new leadership. My man Mike DeLuca, who used to be at New Line when I first started, when I first did the first Friday and Players Club and All About the Benjamins, Mike DeLuca was there. So there's the connection that probably allowed this to become a possibility, because now he's running Warner Brothers, and him and his man Michael Gruber was like, yo, what the fuck's going on with Friday? Let's get that shit back online. And so it looks like it's going to happen. Ice Cube co-wrote the first one with DJ Pooh, starring in the comedy as 22-year-old slacker Craig Jones. Of course, that one featured Smokey, Chris Tucker there. The next one, he reprised his role for the next sequels, of course, in Next Friday and Friday After Next. He was in talk for a fourth entry as far back as 2011. So I knew it was at least a decade. It seems like it's been longer. So they've been trying to get this made for, almost 15 years now. Ice Cube called out Warner Brothers' own studio for dragging their feet back in 2022. The bad thing about it is John Witherspoon has passed away, which we would love to see him come back for this one as well. We know he was Craig's father, but finally it is happening. Now it looks like we're finally going to get Last Friday, Ice Cube setting that at Warner Brothers and New Line. So there it are to wrap up the comedy news. Now let's talk some horror news, guys. To wrap up this thing before I talk about some things that I've been watching lately, let's start with The Black Phone 2, the sequel to, of course, Blumhouse's original there, Black Phone, which I liked. I didn't love it as much as some people, but I didn't hate it either. I thought it was well done. Ethan Hawke had a hell of a performance as the grabber. And, the way that movie went, you're wondering, how are they going to make a sequel? I think I talked about that in the past. And here's how. The Black Phone 2 taking a Freddy Krueger approach to continuing the franchise. I like it just from that headline alone. This from Bloody Disgusting. Scott Derrickson's The Black Phone ended on a pretty definitive note, with the evil being vanquished and the grabber being killed by our hero. So how do you make a sequel to a movie where the villain is very much dead? When did that ever stop the horror genre? Great point. First footage from The Black Phone 2 was shown off by Universal and Blumhouse at CinemaCon. And while the footage won't be making its way online, of course, that's, as is the case always with CinemaCon, do have descriptions from various reporters and outlets that all make the same observation. The grabber is going full Freddy Krueger in 2025. What does that mean? According to footage recaps from Discussing Film and Screen Rant, The Black Phone 2 will see the grabber stalking kids from beyond the grave. Now, does that mean dream sequences? He's going to become a dream killer like Freddy? I mean, shit, we may as well get it. Who knows if we're ever going to get any more Nightmare on Elm Street, so let somebody go with that. But Screen Rant says the teaser begins with a payphone/phone booth off the side of the road in winter. Finney is walking and sees a payphone and stops. We then see 3 photos being placed on a table, and it cuts to Gwen inside a basement with someone very slowly and loudly walking down the stairs. Later, Finney answers the phone and the grabber appears on the outside. Hello, Finney. Did you think our story was over? You of all people know that death is just a word. Finney is shown in the phone booth a lot, with scenes of other kids being attacked and nearly murdered. It's pretty much like Freddy Krueger now. So it seems like multiple sources saying that. Discussing Film notes that Finney appears to be living a sullen life as his sister Gwen is having strange visions. The repeated images of an out-of-order black phone and Gwen at summer camp build to reveal the black phone rings. The grabber is hanging around in the afterlife, out to make their life a living hell. The rest of the footage is pure nightmare fuel. There's a striking image of the grabber ice skating towards the camera in slow motion. Discussing Film writes on X, the grabber goes full Freddy Krueger and is seeking revenge on the kids from the first movie, From Beyond the Grave, and he has full demonic powers now and can make the children hallucinate incredibly cruel deaths. Okay, that's going to be a nice touch. That might make the sequel even better than the original when you're taking, the grabber from, already being the physical force that he was to having the full-on demonic Freddy Krueger style powers. That's pretty cool. And we're going to get this later this year. Opens in theaters on October 17th from Blumhouse and Universal. I know Blumhouse's track record lately has me a little bit worried, but I do like that description. So I'll give it a chance. We'll check it out in October, see how it goes. But speaking of Freddy Krueger, how about New Line talking about Nightmare on Elm Street, which I'm sorry doesn't give us much hope currently. And it sucks, man. It's been since 2010 since we've had a Nightmare on Elm Street, since 2009 since we've had anything with the Friday the 13th franchise. Never Hike Alone movies, to the side, which those are amazing. Don't want to disparage those any. But, as far as wide releases, we haven't had anything from either franchise really, which the Freddy Krueger movie that Dave McCrae played Freddy Krueger in on YouTube was great as well. There at least have been some good fan films in the meantime and in between time. But damn, can we get some Nightmare on Elm Street? From Bloody Disgusting here, New Line hopes to make another Nightmare on Elm Street movie. It's complicated. Is it really that complicated? I mean, Wes Craven's estate has the rights. You get them, you cast somebody, you make a movie. Yeah, I mean, doesn't seem that complicated to me, but let's see what they have to say here. Jackie Earle Haley did have a good April Fool's Day joke where he posted that a sequel was being made and he was returning. That was a good one right there by Jackie Earle Haley for sure, because we know how people lament that 2010, mainly because, the fucking CGI they used on Freddy, how terrible that was, I think ruined it, because Jackie Earle Haley could have been a good Freddy Krueger, and that movie did have some good moments. I will stand by that. Is it great? No. Is it good? Not really, but there were some cool shit in it, the micro naps and stuff like that. But here's what the Hollywood Reporter asked New Line Cinema president and CCO Richard Brenner. They said, is a new Nightmare on Elm Street on the horizon? And he says, we hope so. It's complicated because of the rights. The response is not surprising, but New Line, often referred to as the house that Freddy built, has not publicly commented on Elm Street in some time. The U.S. rights to the property reverted to the estate of Wes Craven, as I said earlier, but New Line maintains the international rights. So maybe there's your complication is they don't want to buy them from the Craven estates, what it sounds like to me. If New Line has the international rights, they just need the U.S. rights, and maybe they just don't want to spend the damn money, which is sad, man. We've heard that the estate was taking pitches, but they need New Line on board or a deal with another domestic distributor to move forward. So it sounds like New Line's blocking this shit one way or the other, because it seems like Wes Craven's estate wants to do this. Launched in 1984, the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise features 9 films. Robert Englund starred as Freddy in all but the remake. If nothing else, it seems like fans have a 4K box set to look forward to, which I'll probably have to grab that, and hopefully that'll tide us over, because who knows how long it'll be for Nightmare on Elm Street. But for Friday the 13th, we do have some good news. Something that we talked about, rumored in the past, now official. And that is, of course, Linda Cardellini, cast as Pamela Voorhees in the Crystal Lake series from A24. I love the casting. Linda Cardellini's awesome. Huge Freaks and Geeks fan. Got it back there on, physical media, of course. Buy physical media, fuck streaming. That shit's going to last. Streaming's not. They can take anything away from you at any time. So buy physical media. Keep it around, guys. I know that's a bit off track there, but, just maybe think of it. But I'm excited for the Crystal Lake series because, like I said, I'll take anything Friday the 13th you're going to give us right now. But the fact that it's Linda Cardellini tells me we're going prequel. But I hope, because I think it was rumored in the past that it was going to kind of jump back and forth between prequel and modern times, because I don't want a Crystal Lake series without Jason Voorhees, man. We need some Jason as well. We are getting Pamela for sure, though, played by Linda Cardellini from Bloody Disgusting here, after early reports that Peacock's Friday the 13th prequel series from A24 may have found Miss Voorhees last month. We talked about it on a previous episode here of the podcast. It's now official, as Deadline reported it. The series version of Pamela Voorhees is believed to be a mother who had given up a singing career to raise a special needs child and takes a dark turn when she loses her son. So from that, it sounds like they're kind of just retelling the original Friday the 13th in series form. We'll see, though. Brad Caleb Kane is the showrunner for Crystal Lake, who's also doing the Welcome to Derry series that'll be on Max. In addition to Kane, executive producers include, of course, Victor Miller, who wrote the original screenplay, Miller's copyright attorney Mark Toberoff, Robert M. Barsamian, and Robert P. Barsamian. The project will mark A24's first major IP-driven product amid a recent effort to expand in a more commercialized direction, which I do like A24 having, a say in one of the big three, here getting something to do with the Friday the 13th franchise. So we'll see what happens here now moving forward. We do have, the Crystal Lake series coming. We now have Linda Cardellini cast as Pamela Voorhees. So with this casting, now official, expect to hear more details on this upcoming series soon here. What Bloody Disgusting has to say. And as more news comes out about it, we will have it covered here, continue to cover it on JC's Pop Culture Pod, as we love to cover horror, comedy, and superheroes. So keep it locked here on JC's Movies on the YouTube side. And, of course, subscribe to us on JC's Pop Culture on the podcast side. And then how about a little bit of news for the Jordan Peele produced movie here, Him. I think it was previously titled Goat. We've been talking about this one for a while as well, because it's something that I don't think I've really seen too often, and that's a sports horror movie, a football horror movie to be specific. Marlon Wayans starring in it. So, good producer, good actor, and I'm on board for the concept. We have a poster now as well. Greatness demands sacrifice is also from Bloody Disgusting. That's the tagline on the first official poster for Him, formerly titled Goat, an upcoming horror movie from Jordan Peele's Monkey Paw Productions. Currently set to release in theaters September 19th, so we should be getting a trailer very soon here, Bloody Disgusting says. Excited to catch this one later this year. In the meantime, we will check out the poster that was on display at CinemaCon. Justin Tipping directs the sports-themed psychological horror tale with Marlon Wayans starring alongside Tyreek Withers and Julia Fox. Based on a pitch by Zach Akers and Skip Bronke, the movie centers on a promising young athlete who is invited to train with the team's rising star. It's described as a blood-chilling journey into the inner sanctum of fame, power, and the pursuit of excellence at any cost. Tim Heidecker, Jim Jeffries, and Grammy nominee Tierra Whack also star. Jordan Peele will produce the upcoming horror movie Him alongside Wynn Rosefeld, Jan Cooper, and Jamal Watson. Executive producers David Kern and Kate O. And you guys watching on the video version can see the poster there for Him, the sports horror movie, the football horror movies. You see the football in the case, blood dripping down the seams there from the laces. Pretty cool poster, and the September 19th release date. So excited to check that one out. And last, but most certainly not least, got to talk about Scream 7 and, of course, Matthew Lillard returning. Stu lives! Got to talk a little bit about that here as he had some things to say here lately. From Bloody Disgusting, he talks his Scream franchise return, saying, I hope I don't fuck it up for everyone. So the big news for Scream 7 is that Matthew Lillard is returning to the franchise for the first time since the original back in 96, but we still have no idea how Lillard and his long-deceased character Stu Macher will be returning to the fold. As for Lillard himself, he's definitely concerned about messing with the original movie's beloved legacy. Speaking at 90s Con over the weekend, at the Connecticut Convention Center, Lillard opened up about his concern with the below quotes coming from the convention courtesy of People. Matthew Lillard told the crowd in attendance at 90s Con, I will say I can't do anything about it, obviously, but I'm very excited and slightly terrified to be back because all I can do is really screw up a legacy that we have. I could really suck, and so that's my fear. Matthew Lillard, you're not going to suck, bro. You're always awesome. And especially playing Stu again, you're going to be awesome. But his fear is that he comes back and sort of punish something that I could have never touched and been just fine. Lillard continued with brutal honesty. I just hope I don't fuck it up for everyone. Scream 7 will release in theaters February 27th, 2026. In addition to Lillard, we also have David Arquette returning. Hell yeah. Nev Campbell. Hell yeah. Courtney Cox and even Scott Foley returning for the film. Mason Gooding and Jasmine Savoy Brown return from Scream 5 and Scream 6. Original screenwriter Kevin Williamson is directing Scream 7. So some comments there from Matthew Lillard about the return of Stu. Wrap up the movie news here. I know we had a ton to get through there, and I apologize for the length. But nonetheless, man, we'll keep this one still under an hour, probably under 45 minutes even, because I don't have a ton of stuff to talk about that I've been watching because it's pretty much the same stuff I've been talking about on the most recent episodes. White Lotus, hell of a season. I think season 3 is right up there with season 1 for me. I really like the way that it's unfolding. Got the finale coming up this Sunday. It's going to be 90 minutes long. Super excited to check that out. Severance season 2, man. There were a couple episodes in the middle of the season that I thought were a little bit of a lull in the season, but they brought it back home with an explosive finale there for season 2 and promised us we won't have to wait forever for a season 3, which is great news. The only thing I have here, is the ending of season 2. I have mixed feelings about. I have left to wonder, was the character that Marquez ran off with who he thought it was? And then, of course, you also hit you in the feels with the Gemma storyline ending the way that it did. And so I think it sets up an interesting season 3 where maybe Gemma's going to be one of the main characters now that's trying to help Marquez. I'm trying to not dive too much into spoilers for people that may have not seen it yet. But I think season 3 is going to still be a lot of fun, and it's interesting to see where they go from here. We've had a lot of answers to a lot of questions now, and so it's going to be very intriguing to see what they do with season 3 and where it goes. I'll just leave it at that, I guess, for Severance. Other than that, trying to think here. Adolescence, man. Adolescence on Netflix. British show. Not for the faint of heart. If you haven't watched it yet, it really it tugs at the heartstrings, but it also touches on a lot of heavy aspects, I will say. Incel culture, bullying, a lot of different things there, and it will definitely have you shedding some tears there throughout its thing, but it's extremely well done. The way they shot each episode with, no cuts, kind of a one shot throughout the entire episode. Super impressive. No idea how they pulled that shit off, but Adolescence, super well done. I think I saw it was in the top 10 of any Netflix series right now. Not a ton of movies that I've been watching. Obviously, that's why you guys haven't seen any reviews up on the JC's Movies channel lately, but expect that to change in the near future as we have some good horror releases coming out. Unfortunately, one hell of a summer I'd love to watch wasn't released anywhere near me theatrically. I guess it kind of had not an extremely wide release, unfortunately. So I guess I'm waiting for streaming for that one. And, a couple other things that we're going to catch here in the near future, though. Reviews will be coming in the near future for those. I did watch True Romance, and a hell of a movie that was, because I've been trying to watch some Val Kilmer movies that I haven't had a chance to watch. And I guess that's kind of what I'll touch on here at the end is losing a legend, man. Val Kilmer, I mean, you could talk a million roles, right? Tombstone, probably the best Western ever. He's the best Doc Holliday ever. A phenomenal performance there. Probably the most underrated Batman. I'd put him probably top 3 behind Keaton and Affleck, slightly above Pattinson right now, but that may change. You guys know I'm not the biggest Bale fan at all. I got him down near the bottom, above Clooney at least, though. But I thought Kilmer was underrated. He was phenomenal as Bruce Wayne. Good Batman. And you go on down the list. I mean, Heat, I still got to watch that. I got to go check that one out. Another great performance of his. So on down the list, man, it continues. But he was awesome in True Romance, as a lot of people were. Great film was True Romance. Probably a 9.5 out of 10 for me if I was given that rating. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I watched lately. The Netflix documentary Gone Girls about the Long Island serial killer. Fuck that guy. What's his name? Huerman or something? I don't know. Who gives a shit? But I thought the Netflix series did a good job of, more highlighting the victims than highlighting him. They waited till the final episode and just gave him kind of a brief little overview towards the tail end. And that's something that I think more of these true crime docs should do is, not glorify the douchebag killer so much as, kind of honor the victims. And I thought he did a good job of that. But that guy, I mean, I think they have him for 8 or 9, but he's probably murdered up as many as 20 plus people. So, he's denying it, pleading not guilty and shit, but I'm sure he's going to go down and we'll see how that case plays out. But not a bad docuseries there if you're into true crime. Gone Girls on Netflix. Trying to think if there's anything else. Daredevil Born Again, still ongoing. I'm not all the way caught up. I'm caught up through episode 5. Still got a couple more to watch to catch up on that. What else is going? Righteous Gemstones. Holy shit! The latest episode of Righteous Gemstones, the way that it ends. Spoiler alert: with John Goodman, 69, and the other, I can't remember the character's name, but the wife's old friend. Holy shit! That was probably the funniest episode yet of the series, and definitely probably the funniest moment for me of the series. I laughed my ass off through the latest episode of Righteous Gemstones. So still watching that, still loving that as they're in their final season now as well, wrapping up that series. So be sure to check that out if you haven't already. Got that wrapping up in the near future. Got the final episode of White Lotus I'll be watching this weekend. And other than that, can't say enough good things about Severance, man. If you haven't watched it, definitely check it out. You got plenty of time to catch up on the first 2 seasons before they bring us season 3. And I guess, probably at least a year now, but it really is an amazing show that'll kind of get your mind going, and you'll start thinking, philosophically, I guess you could say, because it really does make you ponder a lot about consciousness, what makes up a person, what makes a person, shit like that. Get all deep and shit with it. It'll make you want to read some philosophy books or something about consciousness, maybe even. But I think it's just extremely well done, all the themes throughout, and just super entertaining as well. Have you on the edge of your seat, and also has some good moments that'll make you laugh. Ben Stiller's done a phenomenal job with that show. So that's pretty much what I've been watching as of late. I'm probably leaving something off that I've watched lately, but if so, we can talk about it on the next episode. This has been a good one, guys. Hope you guys have enjoyed the movie news here. Like I said, if you're watching on the YouTube side here on JC's Movies, be sure and subscribe. If you're listening on the audio side, come over to the YouTube side where you can get the movie reviews and all of that good stuff as well here on JC's Movies. And if you are here on the video version, hit the thumbs up button. Help us out a shit ton with that crazy YouTube algorithm before you head out. We'll be covering horror movies, superhero movies, comedy movies here on the channel, so be sure to subscribe if those are up your alley like they're up mine. And then lastly, of course, if you're on that audio side, you can help us out by leaving us a rating, and share it around with other movie fans you may know. Having said that, we'll get out of here until the next episode of JC's Pop Culture Pop Culture Pod, not prod. You know, I get talking too fast and my mind's moving too quick, and then I stumble over my words. But you guys that have been following along know I do that far too often. But I'll stop running my big yapper now and get the hell out of here for this one, wrapping up episode 15 of JC's Pop Culture Pod. Appreciate you guys tuning into this one, and I will catch you on the next one.